Okay, so we are going to move on to our second part of the evening tonight. I'm just going to read Esti's profile as she joins us tonight. Esti holds a BA Honours, Marketing Communications from the University of Johannesburg with psychology as an extra subject. She has 11 years experience working in advertising, branding, reputation management, and PR. In 2016, Esti published her first novel, The Eye in the Yellow Bow Tie, a coming-of-age tale with bullying as a central theme. She established Screen Smart in 2018, collaborating with educational psychologists, social media experts, tech gurus, and educators to improve the media landscape our children grow up in. Esti is an avid public speaker and an enthusiastic trail runner. Okay, so Esti from Screen Smarts tonight is going to join us. Esti, you can come up as we talk about the influences of social media. Thanks. Come on, ladies, let's give her a warm CRC welcome. Thank you for being with us tonight. Okay, so we've talked, I just wanted to lay a foundation about identity, but then we know that there are practical things that impact our identity, and social media really is a big part of that today. So Esti, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. It's always so lovely to visit. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to get right into it. What impact is social media and technology having on women's mental health, overall confidence, and core values? Can you share some statistics and insights?
Yes, so, 20 years ago when Mark Zuckerberg launched Facebook, there was whisperings about social media might not be as healthy for us mentally as we would like it to be. But back then, we had very little research, and there were no longitudinal studies that we could actually base our thinking on. But lately, we are 20 years down the line, and sadly, many women have actually already suffered the consequences of the mental health impacts that social media has. So it's sad that we didn't have the research at the time where it was invented and when it was launched. But today, there is significant research. And one of these studies that I found a true eye-opener was in April this year, Sapien Labs actually released a massive research report. And I actually have this research report. If anyone wants to read the full study, please contact me because I'd love to share it. But Sapien Labs went out and they tested 27,000 people between the ages of 18 and 24. And these people were worldwide, so in 64 different countries. So the study crossed economic boundaries, it crossed socioeconomic boundaries, it crossed cultural boundaries. And what they did was they asked all of those people, at what age did you get your first device? An iPad or a smartphone? And so what they did was they actually took that age and they plotted it on a graph. And then they also tested that person's mental health. And they plotted that same thing on the same graph. And what they found was that people, the earlier a person has a smartphone or a device, the worse their mental health was overall between the ages of 18 and 24. But what was very interesting was the different parameters that they tested. Now, I've got them here, and I want to delve into them a little bit. So the first parameter that they tested was social self. And they found that people who received smartphones earlier in life, so let's say you get your first smartphone at the age of 10, these people really battled socially later on in life, because their first social skills were acquired online. So social self was the first one. The second one was identity formulation. So it ties in so nicely to what we are speaking about tonight. So identity formulation, they found that people between the ages of 18 and 24 who received a device or a smartphone earlier on in life had real problems defining who they were, where those who received it later on, let's say at 16, had a very solid construct of who they were. So that was very revealing as well. And then they also tested detachment from reality. So how sure are you, how connected are you to reality? And people who received the smartphone earlier were more detached from reality than their counterparts. They also tested self-worth and confidence. And the statistic on this one was very heightened for women. So women in particular, the earlier they received a device, the lower they tested in self-worth and self-esteem. And then the last one, which really gives me the shivers, is suicidal ideation. So they tested the earlier, and they proved that the earlier you get a smartphone, the more you think of suicide between the ages of 18 and 24.
Wow, and those are, like you say, Esti, real statistics that cross the board. Doesn't matter what culture, what your socio-economic conditions are. Those are the facts. So, what is the average screen time for South African women? That's what we want to know. And how does that compare to what is healthy and recommended? Obviously, not the women in this room, other women out there. Okay, so you can relax, ladies. We're not talking about you.
So it's always very difficult to test because when you ask someone how many hours a day do you spend on a screen, they all underestimate the amount. So very difficult to test. But the best way that they can test it is to actually get the information from the smartphone companies. And we actually have a very influential lady here in NMMU. She works at NMMU. Her name is Professor Kerry Lynn Thompson. And she recently spoke to Cape Talk and revealed that out of 45 countries, South Africa has the highest screen time. Yes.
Not you, the ladies that are not here.
And it actually averages out at 10 hours a day. And I immediately said, oh, but this is definitely social media. Surely they're spending all of that time on social media. But it turns out they're actually streaming Netflix.
Okay, you can be honest by a show of hands. Who streams Netflix on their phone? Come on, don't be shy. Don't lie in the house of the Lord. Okay, quite a few of you, honest people out there. The rest of you, we're praying for you.
So it was Netflix, and there was a lot of social media, but it was always also online learning. So there were positives as well. It wasn't just, you have to distinguish between, being 10 hours on TikTok watching mindless videos and actually being, studying on your phone or, there's different types of screen time.
So what is generally out there? Okay, can you give us an outline of what makes up most of the available content on social media? Because obviously the people in this room only watch Christian content, so we just... I didn't hear any amens, no?
Well, I think on this point we need to immediately acknowledge that all of the content is user-generated. And I think that is the power of it, but it's also its greatest downfall. And the power of the internet is that it's a global pool of human intellect, Suddenly we've got the whole world's intellect at our fingertips, and that's very powerful and magical. But at the same time, as far as the human imagination stretches, that far, is the content on the internet. You can find out how to boil an egg one day, but another person can be searching for an assassin on the dark web, so it is really wide. And I think the internet's greatest magic is also its darkest side, and that it's user generated. And let's face it, not everyone out there is good, or has good intentions.
What can you tell us about the science and how the body responds to likes and comments and social media posts, positive and negative?
Okay, so social media cleverly exploits the human brain. So the algorithms are written to exploit your reward center in your brain. And as humans, we all have dopamine. So dopamine is a feel-good hormone, and it's a hormone that we really need because it motivates you to do anything. So to take a shower, you need a baseline level of dopamine. To pick your child up from school, you need dopamine. Just to move, just to move your leg, you need dopamine. But certain things really spike your dopamine, and for example, nicotine will spike your dopamine, or even seeing that your favorite dress is on sale and now you can suddenly afford it. That rush, or when the Shein package arrives, that is dopamine.
A lot of Sheen fans in the house, it sounds like.
And that's pure dopamine. The thing is that so obviously a WhatsApp message notification that spikes your dopamine, and seeing that your post that you posted, your photo that you posted has got 20 likes, or there's a comment, that spikes your dopamine. And it feels good, but we can't live from one dopamine high to the next because it's just simply not sustainable. And the thing is, if your self-worth and your identity is linked to the likes and comments that you have on social media posts, you will very likely start feeling very isolated. You will start feeling depressed. You'll start feeling alone. The thing is that a like is a like. It's not a benign symbol. As soon as you like a post, you are voting in a worldwide popularity contest. And because it means that you like someone's something more than you like someone else's. And the thing is that if we are living from like to like, we are going to start feeling very unworthy. And and then the other thing is that there's always going to be someone with more likes than you. So it's a very toxic system, and it's got a terrible impact on your self-esteem.
So how does comparing yourself to others have an impact on your mental health?
Okay, so Theodore Roosevelt actually famously said that comparison is the thief of joy. Now, I always like using this example because I think it's so revealing. There was a Miss USA 2019. Her name was Kelsey Christ, and she was beautiful. She was athletic. She had her own talk show. She was a lawyer. She had an MBA. I mean, this girl was a high flyer. And you know what? She actually committed suicide. She jumped off her New York apartment building. And when her family was interviewed, her family cited social media depression as the reason for her suicide. Now, if a person like that can find themselves lacking on social media, that is quite, what does it do to us normal folk, who don't have MBAs and, just normal people. So I think if Theodore Roosevelt could see us now comparing ourselves to others, he would be very sad and I think he was very right when he said that comparison is the thief of joy.
And then why is there a real risk of addiction if social media use is not managed and monitored properly?
Okay, so it goes back to this dopamine baseline. So the way that behavioral addictions work, like gaming disorder or social media addiction, is you have this baseline level of dopamine and you almost have to see it as a wave pool. There's water in this wave pool, and every time you get a like or a comment or you find a loot box on Fortnite, this wave pool spikes. There's this wave in the dopamine levels. So it spikes. But what happens is that a little bit of the dopamine drops out the sides. And so the overall level of dopamine drops. And then you feel very low. So you're feeling low, you're feeling tired, you're feeling demotivated, you can't get up to go to the gym. And so you're feeling there, and then you post again. And it goes up again, and you spike again, and it feels good. But then again, spills out. And the overall baseline of dopamine keeps dropping. And this is why often when we see teenagers who have a social media depression or a video gaming addiction, they are not motivated to do anything. They can barely move. They're completely lethargic because their baseline level of dopamine is so low. And that is why it's so addictive, because you keep going back to get the high to counteract the low, but then it spills over.
Are you learning something tonight, ladies? So what are the signs that your use is not healthy? Okay, you have to listen now, even if you don't want to. The truth will set you free. Okay, so what are the signs that your social media youth is not healthy?
Okay, so I think it's worth paying attention to how your session on social media makes you feel. You know, when you put Instagram down and you're actually angry, there's a reason why you're feeling angry at that point. And if you put Instagram down and you're actually feeling alone or isolated or depressed, there's a reason for that. And that's a good time to maybe pull back, you know. The next thing is feeling demotivated or no longer interested in the things you used to enjoy, having no energy to enjoy those things. And then sleep disruptions, so checking TikTok in the middle of the night. So I see a lot of teenagers who they'll post something.
Obviously just teenagers, no one here, hey?
They'll post something just before they fall asleep. And then they wake up in the middle of the night to check if they have any likes or comments. And then obviously also if you are on social media before you fall asleep and you can't fall asleep because your brain is so busy with everything you've just seen, then being unable to disconnect, finding it very hard to get through a Monopoly game with your children without actually checking your TikTok or your Instagram. And then your physical health suffers, so you get a smartphone pinky, so that little bump in the smartphone, that's a sure sign, and you know, like declined eyesight, so physical health. And then the last thing is if it's having a negative impact on your real world relationship. So if your friend, you can't go for lunch for an hour with your friend without checking your phone. You know, you can't someone can't keep your attention long enough because you have to check. Then that's a dopamine dependency. You know, you're trying to get back in. So those are the things to look out for.
Then what are some of the tips for healthy social media engagement?
Okay, so there's so many things. I mean, there's so many solutions. It's not all doom and gloom. There's lots of good solutions. I think the first thing is that your real world interactions and relationships and experiences should always take priority over your online world. The next one is don't use your phone as an alarm clock. You know, don't sleep with your phone next to you. Go to Crazy Store, buy Shein, buy a cheap alarm clock.
Are you getting paid by Shein? Is it like a
Yes.
paid partnership by Shein?
How do you know? No, so just, you know, don't sleep with your phone next to you. Just get an old school alarm clock and just use that. And then to post consciously, you know, ask yourself why. What is my motivation? Why am I about to post this? You know, is it for affirmation? Is it to boost my self-esteem? Is it to soothe a hurt or an insecurity? Decide on whether it's really necessary to post, and then also consider the impact that post might have on others, because posting a picture of your child's academic merit might make you feel good in the moment, but your friend whose child is really battling at school, that might not make her feel so good. So we need to be very conscious of what we're putting out there. And then the next one is just to control your influences. You know, you don't have to watch people eat their breakfast in the ocean every morning. You know, you can, there's so much more. There's actually so many uplifting influences out there that you can follow and like. And then set your screen time controls. So I did this recently. So most phones now have controls that you can set. You can actually set screen time controls on the different apps, how long are you going to allow yourself on them. And I set 15 minutes on social media, and by 10 o'clock in the morning, it's gone. You can't believe how fast you use it up.
She doesn't mean 15 minutes an hour. She means 15 minutes for the whole day. Okay, just to be clear.
Yes. And then just having a digital detox from time to time. You know, go on holiday, switch your phone off, spend some time in the real world. You know, no one on their deathbed ever said, oh man, I wish I spent more time on TikTok. Yeah. Like, most people in that situation is saying, oh, I wish I baked my mom that cake one last time, or I wish I went hiking with my son on his 21st birthday, or I wish I took that trip. You know, that's what people are regretting, not things that were on their phones. And then the last one I think is very important is we need to seek support before we actually need it. You know, as soon as you're not feeling yourself, you need to seek support. And there's so many resources out there. I mean, everyone here has got a great resource just in the church, you know. The other thing is that we are so quick to go to the doctor. You've got an ingrown toenail and you run to the doctor. Like, you don't even think about it. But we're so slow to go and seek mental health help. And why? We are all worthy of being mentally healthy. So that's it.
Thanks, Esty. Have you learned something tonight, ladies? Yes. Thank you so much for your time. Let's just give Esty a hand as she goes. Ladies, I think that, have you ever thought about this, that we all have social media apps and platforms, but we all are looking at different things, right? Because again, think about that. You can switch someone's phone on, same app, Instagram, Facebook, but completely different algorithm. Because you have the power to choose your influences. And I think we can't just go blindly along with the world. We get to choose what we put in front of ourselves, what we meditate on.